All right, this is the 3X Mechanics component, what we call the load position. So this is loading the drive leg. Now, remember, the drive leg is the only leg on the ground for 3/4 of your delivery, about 0.6, 0.7 seconds, which is the time, the moment your hip leads as you build your stride. Why is this important? Is because this stabilizes our ability to create force off the ground, allows us to direct our momentum, and the more studies show, the more we sit here, the more time we have to load the kinetic chain. So this is a really, really important piece. Also, another great study showed the initial movements in the delivery. When coaches teach the initial movements of the delivery, those actually are more transferred to the athlete or the player's delivery than the later movements. So, meaning learning all these earlier movements actually are more easy to implement into your delivery than try to learning the late movements. Those really have a hard time of picking this up, mainly because this is a kinetic chain system. So what I'm doing here early is more than likely influencing, or the end result is just a reaction to what we're doing right now. So this is very, very, very important. It's the foundation of 3X pitching. So we came out of lift leg momentum. We're now, hips are counter rotated, and we're loading the drive leg. There's a lot going on because this is a complex skill, right? Fastest human movement ever recorded in a laboratory. The arm speeds just at the college level. So we're performing a complex skill that's the fastest moving skill in the world, okay? So when we come out of lift leg, we're moving forward and down the same rate. Our goal is to get the shin, our force vector, ankle to knee, pointing somewhere to our front hip, which should be then also pointing as much to the target as we can. So this vector, shooting through the front hip, needs to get to a point where it's as lined up to that target as we can before we drive, because when I drive, that's where I want all that ground force to go. I want it to go in that direction. I want it to go this way. I don't want it to go this way. If it goes this way, I'm not going to use it. I'm probably just going to rotate. I'm probably just going to collapse and just try to use my upper body at that point. So coming out of leg lift, forward and down the same rate, holding torsion. So I'm still counter rotated with the hips. I want my pelvis up. I want my trunk upright. Key thing is this pelvis. I can't be in an anterior tilt. Now I'm loading my quad. This is going to want to collapse hard. I have to be in a posterior tilt. I have to be sitting into the glutes. The glutes have to be on, and then that creates a great foundation to counter rotate. Look, if I'm in the anterior tilt, I can't separate. But if I'm in a posterior tilt with good torsion in the femur, look where my trunk can go. And that's what we want. Elite pitchers are going to be back here, okay? But as you're loading, so you're flexing down, or triple flexion, ankle, knee, hip flexor, flexing down as you're moving forward and down the same rate. And the moment before your front foot lands, we want this force vector linear, holding torsion. We don't want to collapse into internal rotation. Holding torsion to the front hip. This is separated, moving into the cocked position, and this is where we're ready to drive. So this is how we load our gun. As far as the feet and stuff, we'll talk about that when we get into all the biomechanics of all the joints. But right now, remember, lift out of lift leg momentum, forward and down the same rate, counter rotate, linear force vector, holding torsion, posterior tilt, trunk upright, and you're counter rotating your trunk past your hip, right? Because this, like the whip, we're going to load this joint behind that joint. We're going to load this joint behind this joint. We're going to load this joint behind this joint, and this joint eventually behind that joint. So we're loading everything back like the whip. And this is the position. So you can practice coming out of that leg lift and hitting that linear position, right? Or you can even get way out here and just lift and feel it, right? Lift and feel it. A lot of you are going to find you can't even do that. That's why we have those drills, like the overhead drills, helping us build strength there. But just getting there, you can also get on a bucket or a little plyo box and get into that position and really feel it. Feel that linear vector, feel that torsion, feel that posterior tilt, feel that trunk posture, okay? And that would define that perfect load position. All your weight has to be here because that's where we're going to peak our power right before we land into the next component. Okay, so that's your 3X Mechanics, the load position.